Dear Mr. Jovanovic, dear friends of the Belgrade Forum, representatives of the Savez Borac, the veterans, the World Peace Forum, srpskih domacina, admirals and officers, excellencies, thank you very much for giving us this chance to intervene on this important occasion. I speak on behalf of the Italian coordination of Yugoslavia, as said, an association which was established at a nationwide level in Italy in 2002 with two main scopes. On one side, to provide and preserve information which was lacking, to fix the memory of the crimes committed by the West against the multinational community of Yugoslavia, and on the other side, to foster and connect with each other the many anti-war activities which had been developed in our country before, during, and after the attack by NATO. I could mention here the solidarity groups which were formed in Rome, Trieste, Bari, Bologna, Torino, Brescia, and so on, and the numerous events which were organized, but the list would be quite long. We also participated in Italy with an Italian section to the activities of the International Committee to defend President Slobodan Milosevic. The movement against the war in Yugoslavia was spread in many countries. Europeans like Greece, of course, but also in Germany, Great Britain, and Ireland, and so on, and then the US and other countries worldwide. But in Italy, there was a special feeling of shame because NATO planes were taking off from our soil, especially from the Aviano, Ghedi, and Gioia del Colle bases. And this cannot be forgotten. Of course, the direct aggression of spring 1999 was the most evident crime committed by that alliance against peace in the Balkans. By causing several innocent victims and huge destructions, it was aimed to make inter-ethnic relations worsen more rapidly and to bring to further dismembering of that wonderful, manifold country which was Yugoslavia, finally leading to its official disappearing from the world maps in 2003. In our opinion, the loss of Yugoslavia has been against the interests of all nationalities living in it, but it was a major damage, especially for the Serbs, since, as somebody already noticed yesterday, Yugoslavia was the unitary state in which all Serb people could find themselves together. NATO bombings as an imperialistic aggression were directed against you, but they shocked several Italians too, since they suddenly made clear to what level of irresponsibility politicians and intellectuals could reach. In fact, some late consequences of the crimes committed by the West in Yugoslavia and Serbia are still falling also upon us, the citizens of the Western countries. For instance, infringements of state and people's sovereignty, centrifugal trusts prompted through identity and micro-national myths, discredit of the international and domestic rules, including the Italian fundamental law, the Costituzione, religious hatred and Islamist terrorism and massacres. These are all examples of backlashes we are suffering nowadays also in the West, in a sort of well-deserved historical nemesis. The Yugoslav crisis, which culminated with NATO bombings, can be taken as a paradigm of the modern imperialistic way of interfering and waging wars. This is why 20 years later our association is still boosting new activities on it. Among the most important activities, some deal with the destruction of the international right, including the course and effects of the Hague-based ad hoc tribunal for former Yugoslavia, ICTY. The ICTY is now officially closed, but it passed all its papers and residual prosecutions to a new ad hoc photocopy-like institution whose name sounds Orwellian, the mechanism. One of the mechanism's duties is to manage the propaganda legacy of the ICTY, especially through the creation of information centers, where the huge amount of documentation which was produced in 25 years of ICTY activity be appropriately filtered to ensure that students, scholars, journalists, and politicians will adopt a narrative of the contemporary Balkan history suitable to the use and consumption of Western powers. This is why the ICTY legacy must be a matter of interest for us. Our association is therefore banishing prizes to be assigned for researches devoted to a critical analysis of the ICTY activity. These prizes are named after Giuseppe Torre, our donor, which was an outstanding anti-war activist. On the same issues, we are publishing some books ourselves, including a second revised and extended edition of Slobodan Milošević, Self-Defense. Proposals for further initiatives and studies, as well as new collaborations by all concerned activists and experts, are highly welcome. The Italian Coordination for Yugoslavia also acts as a friendship and cultural association to let our peoples better know each other. This is why we keep special focuses on art and history. I take, therefore, this occasion to make a little present to Mr. Jovanovic. This is to give him 2 of our publications. The first one, dealing with Serbian medieval art, was written by a prominent art historian, Rosa D'Amico, an expert of monasteries of Raška and Metohija. I'm sorry, this is the right book. The second one is about Yugoslav anti-fascists involved in the partisan struggle on the Italian peninsula. Historical ignorance and revisionism on World War II are affecting the whole Europe, including both our countries, and historical false consciousness can pave the way for future wars. This is why such ignorance and revisionism must be fought relentlessly. Finally, I'm glad to inform you that in Italy, several meetings are being organized to mark this 20th anniversary of NATO bombings. They will be held in Rome, Bari, Milano, as well as in Bologna, where our association has called for an entire day of discussion with some prominent international guests, including Michael Chudovsky and Mr. Živadin Jovanovic himself, which we thank for having accepted our invitation. Some more initiatives will be organized in the same period because it will also be the 70th anniversary of the establishment of NATO. 70 years, can you imagine? Somebody already told that. It's far too much. NATO has to be dismantled finally. We want Italy out of NATO and NATO out of Italy. NATO, Napoli, thank you very much.